Hello and welcome one more time to our session focused on the foundational principles that guide professional conduct in the field of information security. In this lecture, we will examine the Isc2 Code of Ethics, a set of guiding principles that extends far beyond a mere list of rules. The Code of Ethics is central to the cybersecurity profession, shaping not only what we do, but also how and why we do it. As information security professionals, our actions have significant consequences, influencing the safety and trust of individuals, organizations, and society as a whole. Ethics serve as the cornerstone of trust in any profession. In cybersecurity, this trust is especially critical because professionals are often granted access to sensitive information, essential systems, and the digital infrastructure that supports our modern world. The Isc2 Code of Ethics is designed to guide professionals through complex situations where technical solutions must be balanced with moral judgment and legal obligations. It is a commitment that every Isc2 member or certification candidate must make, and it is revisited and reinforced throughout one's career. Let us begin by considering the first and perhaps most comprehensive principle of the Isc2 Code of Ethics, which is the obligation to protect society. As cybersecurity professionals, our duty extends beyond the boundaries of any single organization. The systems we defend often form the backbone of essential services such as healthcare, finance, energy, and communication. A failure in security can disrupt lives, economies, and even national stability. For example, a ransomware attack on a major city's infrastructure can halt emergency services, disrupt transportation, and erode public confidence in digital solutions. This demonstrates that our work is not only technical, but also fundamentally social and ethical. Protecting society means considering the broader impact of our actions. Imagine a scenario in which a security flaw is discovered in widely used medical devices. The ethical course of action is not simply to protect one company's reputation, but to ensure public safety by disclosing the vulnerability in a responsible manner. This requires balancing the need for transparency with the risks of exposing others to harm. In such cases, the Code of Ethics reminds professionals to act in the best interests of the community, not just their employer. The second principle emphasizes acting honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally. These qualities are not optional. They are essential to the reputation and effectiveness of the entire profession. Acting honorably means more than following the letter of the law. It involves upholding the spirit of ethical conduct. Honesty is particularly vital in situations where mistakes are made or flaws are discovered. For instance, if a security audit reveals a significant oversight, it is the professional's duty to report it accurately rather than concealing or minimizing the issue. Justice and responsibility require that we treat all individuals fairly, avoiding any form of discrimination or bias. This is especially important in the development and deployment of security technologies that may affect diverse user populations. For example, a security system that inadvertently disadvantages a particular group must be reevaluated and corrected. Legal compliance is equally important, as information security is governed by a complex web of laws and regulations, such as data privacy statutes or international cybercrime treaties. Violating these not only risks penalties and reputational damage, but can also undermine public trust in digital systems as a whole. Unethical or illegal behavior, such as unauthorized access to data, misuse of privileged information, or participation in cybercrime, can have devastating consequences. The well-known case of an information technology administrator abusing access to confidential client records illustrates how a single lapse in ethical judgment can erode years of trust and damage the credibility of the profession. By acting with integrity, professionals reinforce the social contract that allows them access to sensitive environments and information. The third principle, providing competent service, is rooted in the understanding that the stakes in cybersecurity are exceptionally high. Clients, employers, and the wider public rely on the expertise of information security professionals to safeguard their assets. Competence in this context is not static. It demands continuous education, practical experience, and an openness to new technologies and methodologies. The threat landscape changes rapidly as attackers are constantly developing new techniques, and defensive strategies must evolve to keep pace. Consider a scenario in which an organization's security officer fails to keep up with the latest developments in ransomware. Without current knowledge or skills, the organization may fall victim to a preventable attack, resulting in data loss and financial damage. Competence also involves understanding the business context and aligning security strategies with organizational goals, ensuring that solutions are both effective and sustainable. Delivering competent service is not limited to technical skills. It includes clear and honest communication with stakeholders, accurate risk assessments, and diligent follow-through on security commitments. For example, when advising a non-technical executive about cyber risks, a competent professional translates complex concepts into actionable recommendations. This builds trust and enables informed decision-making at all levels of the organization. The fourth principle centers on advancing and protecting the profession itself. Cybersecurity is a rapidly evolving field, and professionals must actively contribute to its growth and development. This involves a commitment to ongoing learning, staying informed about emerging threats, technologies, and best practices. It also includes mentoring less experienced colleagues, sharing knowledge with the broader community, and participating in professional groups or conferences. One practical example of advancing the profession is responsibly disclosing newly discovered vulnerabilities. Rather than exploiting such weaknesses for personal gain, ethical professionals work with vendors, organizations, and industry bodies to address the issue before it can be abused by malicious actors. This collaborative approach strengthens the entire cybersecurity ecosystem. Professional development also requires adherence to industry standards and participation in shaping those standards as they evolve. By contributing to the development of secure coding guidelines, participating in open source security projects, or helping to create regulatory frameworks, professionals ensure that the field adapts to new challenges while maintaining rigorous ethical standards. It is important to recognize that the Isc2 Code of Ethics is not a static document. As technology advances and new ethical dilemmas emerge, the code is periodically reviewed and updated. This ensures that it remains relevant and effective in guiding professionals through changing circumstances. Individuals seeking Isc2 certification must explicitly agree to uphold the code and are expected to revisit it regularly to stay informed about any changes or clarifications. Adhering to the Code of Ethics is not simply a requirement for passing an examination or maintaining membership. It is a lifelong commitment. Ethical challenges often arise in unexpected ways, particularly as digital transformation blurs the lines between personal privacy, organizational interests, and societal well-being. The decision to report a data breach, the responsibility to avoid conflicts of interest, and the obligation to resist pressure to cut corners are all examples of daily ethical choices that define a professional's character. The real-world relevance of these principles is evident in countless industry scenarios. A security consultant hired to assess a financial institution's defenses must ensure that their findings are reported honestly and without bias, even if the results are unfavorable to the client. A systems administrator who discovers unauthorized access must follow proper procedures and report the breach, prioritizing legal and ethical standards over potential embarrassment or reputational harm. In both cases, adherence to the Code of Ethics protects not just the immediate stakeholders, but also the long-term credibility of the profession. Cybersecurity professionals also have a role in advocating for responsible technology use within their organizations. As artificial intelligence, cloud computing, and the Internet of Things introduce new risks and uncertainties, ethical leadership becomes even more crucial. For instance, when deploying artificial intelligence-driven security analytics, professionals must consider the privacy implications, potential biases, and unintended consequences of automation. The Code of Ethics provides a compass for navigating these complex issues, ensuring that decisions are made with foresight and responsibility. One of the ongoing challenges in ethical practice is the tension between organizational objectives and societal interests. Security professionals may face pressure to prioritize business goals over broader ethical considerations, such as user privacy or fair access to technology. In such situations, the Code of Ethics serves as a reminder that professional integrity must prevail, even when it comes at a personal or organizational cost. This principled stance is what distinguishes a true security leader from a mere technician. To address these challenges, security professionals can adopt several strategies. Regular ethical training and scenario-based discussions help prepare individuals for difficult decisions. Establishing clear reporting mechanisms and fostering a culture of transparency within organizations encourages ethical behavior. Engaging with professional communities and seeking guidance from mentors or peers can provide valuable perspectives when facing challenging choices. To conclude our discussion, the Isc2 Code of Ethics is much more than a checklist for compliance. It is the foundation of responsible, effective, and respected cybersecurity practice. By committing to protect society, acting with integrity, delivering competent service, and advancing the profession, information security professionals uphold the trust that is essential to the digital age. These principles are not abstract ideals, but practical guidelines that influence daily decisions and long-term strategies alike. As we conclude this lecture, remember that ethical conduct is the cornerstone of professionalism in cybersecurity. Every action you take and every decision you make reflects not only on your own reputation, but also on the credibility and future of the entire industry. By adhering to the Isc2 Code of Ethics, you help build a safer, more trustworthy digital world for everyone. Continue striving for excellence in every aspect of your profession.